Just Eff It. Hi, I'm Romy, an identity coach helping others who struggle with their sexual identity and families of queer youth find their path of understanding and acceptance.
And I'm Carla, a mom empowerment coach empowering moms to own their new identities and motherhood journeys.
And together we are the EFFing Madres. We are here to invite you guys into stories of some inspiring madres
who have changed their lives through an Eff It moment. So here we go. Just Eff It.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. I'm Romy. This is Carla. We are the EFFing Madres. My location looks a little different right now. Just to put it out there, Carla and I have taken on yet another job, and we will both be traveling a little bit more over the next year, which we're really grateful for. So we had a conversation last week that sometimes you might see us in hotel rooms or in different places because we're committed to this. But we also have to, make time to work and juggle all the things that we do. But that doesn't mean that we don't ever want to continue this. So bear with us if at times, right, we're in different spaces. I'm currently in California visiting my mom, having some mom time. So here I am in mom's living room. Mom's sitting right over here watching us.
Yes.
But we are the EFFing Madres, and we are two best friends, two Latinas, two girl moms, and every week we come and we chat with a mom and we interview her about a moment that she said Eff it. And Eff it is not fuck it, I don't care. Eff it is I care so much that I'm willing to effing walk through it and see what happens when I get to the other side. I'm ready to actually, it's like the Nike, just do it. It's just Eff it.
Yes. Yeah.
So who do we have on today?
I was actually just texting her, so I'm sorry I wasn't looking at you. So we have someone, actually she came to get her haircut. And she has the same haircut we used to rock, the shaved sides and the mohawk and everything. She's badass, super cool. And she's, she's got grown kids now, but she brought up a subject that I was really intrigued about. I'm not going to spoil it. I just want people to stay curious and listen. But I was like, we haven't had anyone come on talk about this. This is very interesting. Can you please come on and share? And she was like, absolutely. So it involves, I'll just say real quick, escorts. So if that hasn't tickled your curiosity, then I don't know what will. But she's going to jump on and she's going to share this Eff it moment that she had.
You had me at mom and you had me at escorts. So the combination of the two, I'm so fascinated.
Yeah. So, all right, we're going to bring her in just a second. We did the intro already just to let you know, but we didn't want to spoil it because we were like, this one's a good one. We haven't had anyone come on to talk about this. So let's jump into the first question, which is what shifted your mindset to say Eff it to this particular moment that you're going to share with us today?
Yeah. So, I have to kind of put in the fact that I had sort of a near-death experience. I got sepsis back in around Labor Day of 2018. Was in the hospital for the entire Labor Day weekend. They took them 36 hours to get my vital signs under control. Ultimately diagnosed with sepsis, and of course, then I got out of the hospital. And when something like that happens to you, it just kind of shifts the color of the world a little bit. It's the same way I felt when I had my daughter, who's my oldest. She's 21 now. So I'm actually I'm an elder madre, I think, a little bit. My two are in college. I remember coming home from the hospital with her and everything just looked different. It was everything shifted so dramatically. And that's kind of how I felt when I got out of the hospital. And then when my doctor looked at, the reports, my doctor was like, it's pretty hard to tell how close to organ failure you were. So that was eye-opening. And it really kind of shifted my focus to how do I want to spend my time, right? At that point, that's 2018. My daughter graduated high school in 2021, my son in 2023. So I had 6-7 years remaining with my kids at home. And I had a breakup of a long relationship about a year before. And I tried to date a little on the apps. The whole thing just sucked. And I was like, I don't want to waste time dating when I've got these babies. My son was in middle school. My daughter was going into high school. And I'm like, I want to spend my time with these kids. I don't want to spend time on these stupid apps. I'm self-sufficient money-wise. truth is, I mean, I was paying child support and spousal support to my ex-husband. I mean, I was the breadwinner in my family, and happy to do that. We're still good friends. And it really just came down to like, how do I want to spend my time on this planet? How do I want to spend my time? And I didn't want to spend time on these apps and just doing this BS. But at the same time, hey, like, I like sex. I'm a pretty sexual person. The idea of like, okay, I'm not going to date, which that didn't bother me, but like, how am I going to get laid? Like, I can't, right? Like, and I'm not the kind of girl that's going to be fun just like some rando. Like, I got to have somebody that I've trained who like knows what.
Yes.
Okay. And that takes a little time. And so this idea, because what actually then happened was about 6 months later, I was actually on a cruise with some older friends in Europe on a river cruise. And we finished the trip in Amsterdam.
I said Amsterdam had to have done it to you.
Well, I mean, when I first lost that relationship, that it happened now, almost a year ago, I had done some research and I had found, I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. There's at least one. I mean, it's such a goofy name. I hate to say it, but it's Cowboys for Angels. It's the worst. It is the site that the show, I think it was on Showtime, Gigolos was based on. If you ever caught any of those episodes, I mean, you can find them online. Like there was a whole reality show about some of these guys they are straight male escorts for women. I looked into that because I was kind of like, I don't know. Anyway, I'd kind of put it aside, gone about my life, but it kind of bubbled back up again when I landed in Amsterdam. And I thought, well, I mean, it's legal here. I mean, maybe I'll just look into it. And I'm staying at like the Waldorf Astoria by myself for a couple of days, right, in Amsterdam. And I got online, I started researching, I found this like madam who actually had men and women, like pretty high-end escort service. And so I was like, I mean, I'm here, like, why not? And so that was my first experience. Was I booked this guy. He came and had drinks with me at the Waldorf. And then, I mean, like, this dude was like Dutch Special Forces. Okay. This guy was hot and young and cool and like showed up with like a bag of sex toys. And like, I mean, it was awesome.
Okay, I need to ask you something, and then I need to ask you. Okay, I want to recap for everybody that you went through a life or death experience. You are a mom, right? Yep. You wanted to get laid, right? But you didn't want to waste your life, so you went ahead and fucking said F it in Amsterdam and hired yourself an escort, right? Yep. Let me say, as a mom who's been through a divorce and had to date and be on the apps, it is the most time-consuming bullshit, and you go through so much crap to even find one good one, and the good one normally doesn't work. So I hear you, busy moms. We don't have time for these fake-ass dates. They take time to get to know people. They take time to sit at dinner. You're wasting your money. You could be doing so many other things with people you don't even want to be with. So, like, you just cut straight to the point, right?
Yeah,
and I respect that because I'm a very sexual person too. And there was a period in my life where I was like, how do I get laid right now?
Yeah.
I just want some sex to release it and then move on with my life. And that's
I took like a really kind of a problem solving approach to the situation. I mean, that's ultimately what I did. And
so I got to ask you though, was the sex good?
Oh yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? Yeah. Well, plus look, well, let me think. See, he was, okay. His name, which is, whatever, that's the name on this. Okay. Daniel. I actually went to Amsterdam a couple of times after that.
I bet.
And look, I mean, like it actually expanded even beyond that because it was Amsterdam, right? So I'm seeing all these flyers for like these kink parties. Like I literally went to a kink ball with him at one point, which I have a picture. Like, I mean, my tits are out. Like, it's just, it was fantastic. I've been sober for a long time. So, this was in 2019. I got sober in 2013. And then around 2020, the pandemic, right? I kind of refound weed and I'm fine with that. I absolutely cannot drink. It's totally unsafe for me. I'm a card carrying alcoholic. Hi, my name's Tara, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi,
But weed is okay. Like I'm okay with the weed. And so I think if I were back in that situation now, it would be a little more fun because I could at least, partake in, because it's just literally being in a kink party with absolutely nothing fun, but I don't know.
Let me move into this next question. First of all, I want to thank you for this. Having a mom come on here and really own her sexuality and be confident to talk about it. We need to hear more of these stories, and we need women to feel okay and not feel shamed and slut shamed and all the things that society does to us. We are beings like everyone else, and just because we become moms and we play that role does not mean that we lose being sexual fucking beings. So seriously, I cannot thank you enough for being such a badass woman that comes on here and owns this with such confidence. I'm so empowered by this story. Thank you.
I appreciate it. It was interesting because I think the sobriety piece is not a small part of it, right?
No.
I'd been sober for a long enough time, and I'd really ingrained the notion of honesty as such a core thing. And it's I came home and told my kids about it, what I was doing in Amsterdam, right? Yeah. I don't do things I'm ashamed of. If I'm gonna be ashamed of it and I can't be honest about it and I can't talk about it, then I'm not gonna do it.
Same. We had Molly on a week ago. She's a writer of the book More, and it's a memoir of open relationships. She's been married to her husband for I think 20 years, right, Carla? And she's in an open marriage, got tons of lovers. She shares it with her older adult children. It's a full, open, transparent conversation, and I'm so loving this with women. My next question then would be, how has this opened up your perspective? How has it changed you into doing new things and looking at yourself in a different way after saying F it and doing this?
Yeah. So it's really funny because of my friends who heard about this at the time. I've always kind of carved my own path, right? That part's not completely new. This was definitely kind of a different step. Well, for one thing, it did create a little bit of a challenge with my daughter a couple of years later. And it was at the time when she was breaking away and going to college, and she kind of threw this at me a little bit. There were also some things that she just needed me to hear that I had not heard. Mm-hmm. So it was ultimately a good conversation, and we've come completely back together now, but it did create a little fissure. So I had to try to stay in the power that I felt from it. But when your amazing 19-year-old daughter is giving you shit about what you're doing, I promise you that will create some real uh-oh, what am I doing here? Have I done the right thing? I think now even Berta would ultimately look and be like, yeah, my mom's just, she's going to do what she's going to do. My kids both appreciate me for who I am. And so I would say that's one of the things I've learned is sometimes when you do what's right for you, you're going to face some friction. And particularly if it's coming from your kids, that can be super challenging. It made me feel observed, I guess is the right thing to say for a while. It took us a bit to get back straightened out, but at the same time, I wouldn't change it. You don't want to hurt people, obviously, and you need to be thoughtful about how your actions impact other people. But at the same time, I feel good about the way I look in my kids' eyes because I did this and I was as honest with them as I could. And, you're always going to have people who roll their eyes. My ex-husband's just like, oh, Jesus, what?
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone in my life rolls their eyes at the decisions I make. And Carla knows this. It's people sit back and they're like, what is she doing? But I will say this. I think our kids matter the most in terms of who we actually are concerned about, looking at us. At least for me, it's my daughter's perspective that I'm most concerned about. I do whatever the hell I want, but I'll say to most, when you're too concerned worrying about what everyone else thinks, the only person you're hurting is you at the end of the day. So you're so concerned about not hurting all of them, but you're just hurting you by not living the truth, you know?
But also a lot of your kids, I think, probably worry or whatever it is that they bring to you is from outside voices and judgment,
That's
because
right.
they themselves have not formed their own identity really is and stand strong in themselves. So they're letting these other things kind of seep in. So then they'll look at you like, oh, well, my friends think this of my mom. Maybe I should think this of my mom. So but staying
Yeah.
true to you. At the end of the day, your kids are going to just, like your daughters, like, my mom is my mom and she did what she needed to do for herself. And
I learned too that in really just sort of thinking through what I wanted to get across in this interview. And one of the things that I do think came out of this that I have applied in other areas of my life is that, I mean, I'm 54, right? Like I'm getting up there now. And when I was younger, my longtime friends would say, like, what are you talking about, Trask? Like, you've always done whatever the hell you wanted. I've never cared all that much about what people thought about me. But I definitely allowed sort of just the societal stuff, the gender norm stuff, the heteronormative stuff, like all of that stuff to seep in the culture. I mean, of course I did. I mean, kind of. Again, some of my friends would be like, what are you talking about? But
Yeah.
what this allowed me to do really was I reoriented. When we think about our lives, there's a certain part of us that thinks about, like, we're looking at our life from the outside and we're thinking about what we want our life to look like, right? This was like, no. What do I want? How do I want to spend my time? How do I not want to spend my time? What's important to me? What do I need?
Yeah.
And then structuring and building and using and pulling together the tools and the things I needed so that I could go on down. So orienting it, like, really just from my vantage point, looking out of my eyes and out of my heart, instead of casting a look out into whatever and looking at my life and saying, how do I want my life to look from the outside? And that change in orientation, I think, has filtered into almost everything I do. And I feel like much more, I hate the word authentic because it's so overused.
The more real you.
The more real me.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm curious in regards to doing or having this moment. So obviously there were a lot of positives that came out of this. Like you had, you felt power in doing this, like you felt good in doing this, but like, were there any negative things that you learned by having this? Because, when you have new experiences, you learn a lot about yourself, good things, bad things. So just curious, was there anything that you learned?
Well, plus, I mean, so there was the Amsterdam experience, right? But then when I came back to the States, that's when I found this there's a website. There's straight male escorts available in the United States. They're not cheap. Most of those guys are, look, they're models. There's a whole ton of guys that are like in the fitness world. I don't know if anybody is actually making a living doing that, because obviously the demand is, I mean, there's demand. There's definitely demand, but it's not, I would say, what it's like for female escorts. And escorting is legal, because that's just kind of a different thing. So all that to say, like, I've kind of had like a regular guy for years now. And so are there positives and negatives to that? For sure. And I finally started thinking about him kind of like he's like a good massage therapist or a good, anybody that is a service oriented person in your life. Like, that's what he is, right? He's a self-care service provider. At the same time, I'm a woman, and I like dudes. So it's like, it's not the same as like having somebody that thinks you're hot and wants to, pay him. So like, he has to listen to my stories, right?
Yeah.
They're long and drawn out. And like, so if there's any negative, I would say it's that there are those moments of like, oh gosh, and we're friendly. Like, I know he enjoys an evening with me, I know he does. But at the same time, it's not the same as like a relationship. As long as you sit that in your head, and that's what I did, it works. But I do think, you get a little societal stuff, but not really. To me, I'm just like, whatever. You want to judge me or criticize me, go for it. I don't,
I mean, it's a lot better. Most of society anyway is out there sleeping with everybody, trying to find the right person. So what is it if you decide, hey, this works, this is our agreement, as opposed to just like being out there every night trying to find the right one, being confused, being hurt. It's a lot of, as parents too, that's a whole nother like life that we take on when we get into that world. So yeah, I do think it's like, hey, I got, I'm going to go get my massage today. I'm going to go get my nails done. I'm going to go get laid. Like, it just becomes a part of like what we need. And I think it's totally fine.
Absolutely self-care.
Yeah. The amount of freedom that you actually have, because you don't have the element of the emotion and like the relationship part of it, is like, Oh man, that sounds very freeing.
It's been so long now that I'm kind of like, like somebody up in my house? Ugh. It's pretty one-sided in a way, right? Like, and I'm kind of like, yeah, that works for me
Whatever works.
at this point in my life,
When you're pushing through this, how do you get through the self-doubt of like, am I doing the right thing? Is this like what do people think? How do you push that, since you are and you're telling people like, I kind of had to stop caring what people think, society thinks. How do you get yourself through that and stick to what's best for you?
I mean, I would say I had some of those feelings early on. It was the self-doubt I had was definitely exacerbated by the one kind of fight I had with my daughter, and she kind of threw this at me in an argument. I get it. That needed to happen. We had to have a bigger conversation about some other things, and it was really important that I hear her and all of that. But that was the one piece that it was challenging. I didn't talk to her about it for a while, and I really refrained because I just didn't want to make her uncomfortable. But that part hurt, it was like, you don't ever want to feel judged by your kid. But at the same time, like, I don't know, like I liked it was working for me. So I just kind of kept on going and I just pushed through it. And now I'm fine. It's just a decision I made. I highly recommend it. If it works in your life and it's something that works for you in that moment. For me, it was just, again, I mean, I work with engineers a lot. I work in intellectual property litigation. And so I'm around a lot of engineers. And I think over the years, I've become a lot more of an engineer in my head about how I approach problems. And so for that, it was just like, I don't want to spend my time on these apps. I really don't need a partner. I don't really want a partner right now anyway. And that's what kind of set me off. And I just was like, what dials do I need to pull? How do I need to shift things so that I can have what I need? And once I got that set, I just sort of stuck with it. It was balancing, right? It was balancing the fact that I was feeling a little judged, again, mostly by my own kid. I knew the world was going to judge me. That's been true my whole life. Whatever. I don't really care about that. So I just sort of stuck through. Yeah, it's been super instructive, and frankly, in some ways, because I was so injured and hurt by that last relationship I had, having this relationship, and like you're saying, Carla, with this distance of not necessarily having a lot of the components that we have in an actual romantic relationship, it's given me some real opportunities to like test things and like test, if I get my feelings hurt, like, do I say something to him about it or do I not, like, but with a lot less at stake, if that makes sense. And so it allowed me to, it's just been incredibly helpful in me just managing myself. So,
yeah. Well, one thing I was also going to say about your daughter, she is seeing you stand in your power and you stick with your decisions and do what's right for you. That is a huge lesson for her. And you know that she's probably already done it, but she's going to move through life realizing like, I need to do what's good for me and not what other people are doing. And you're the prime example. You doing this has made you feel a certain way, and that's why you're doing it, and you're honest with her. That's just a model for her moving in her life and in her future relationships. So I think that's an amazing lesson to teach your daughter.
I mean, having her, she's 21 now. This is going to be her third summer, basically kind of a rising junior. She's at UCLA. She's a musician. By the way, check out her music, Bird a Bunch, amazing song, Fallen. I just got to plug her because she's just absolutely incredible. She's working as a roadie right now. She's out on tour with Def Leppard and Journey, doing, yeah, what? I know.
Journey?
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. So cool. She's more dedicated to Def Leppard, but yeah, no, she's a badass, man. I mean, she is an absolute badass. It is really sobering to see like a kind of a mini version of yourself come out and she's just an absolute badass. I do feel, knock on wood, she's 21, my son's 20. I feel like I did a decent job of breaking the chain of generational trauma. My kids had some trauma in their life. Of course they did. Their parents split. I'm good friends with their dad still, but it was still obviously a fissure in their lives. But she knows who she is. She knows who she is. She has great boundaries. She just knows who she is. That's the way I would say it. And I do think that growing up, watching just her work ethic alone, I know she got from watching us. It's good to see.
Well, that's why these F it moments are so important, because it allows for everyone in the family to see, like, when you put yourself first, it shifts everything, and it's for the
Yep.
benefit of you and also the family, because when
Yep.
you're happy, there's actual like scientific evidence, like when the mom is happy, everybody else is happy.
Right.
And if when it's the opposite, it's horrible.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why it's important for like moms listening, when if you have that moment, because it's that mental shift. When you say F it, I'm going to try this, it is the most important shift you can make, no matter how it turns out, because it will at the end of the day be positive, because you'll learn something. You'll learn something about yourself, about other people around you. You'll have shed people around you that you've needed to shed, and brought to you the people that you need to bring. So that's why it's so important. So thank you for sharing this effort moment, which we haven't had on. Because, and I bet you there are a lot of moms out there that probably have had something like this that would not feel comfortable sharing.
Opening it up for women to start looking into it. So you don't even know unleashing in some women that are like, wow, like you're giving permission by holding our truth to ourselves. Sometimes we aren't helping others. When we do release it and we say it, this is why I'm so vocal about things. It gives somebody out there
Yes.
permission to do it as well. So thank you.
No, absolutely. I'm happy to share and talk about it. When I first came back from Amsterdam, I posted on Facebook about it. And I said, has anybody ever done anything like this? Because I was just a little bit curious as to whether anybody had ever even, women, right, had encountered anything like this. And it was really interesting, the conversation I got back. I mean, a lot of people were being really critical. Well, trafficking. But I'm like, this guy is Dutch Special Forces. Okay. He is not trafficked. The guy I see here, in the States, like he drives a Mercedes. Okay.
Fine.
He's a trainer. He's a fitness model. He's fine. I understand the concerns. They're real. They're real. Trafficking is a huge problem, especially for women. So there are considerations, but I think just applying that in a blanket fashion is a little bit unfair, but it was an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
There's stigma. There's no question, but do what you want. Yeah. that's my motto. Do what you want.
Well, I'm curious for the next question. So, obviously after you have this effort moment, this brings out a whole other side of you. How would you describe the old Tara versus the Tara now?
Well, it's funny. That's kind of why I prefaced it. Like, again, my oldest friends would be like, "This is no surprise. Like, this of course is something you would do," and there's a lot of truth to that, actually, right? Like, I think this came along at a particular time, and I don't know. I've never been particularly held back. I mean, when I was raised by my dad, right? My mom died when I was 10 years old, and I was raised by my dad, and he did not care what the world thought about him, and I got that. And it's, as a woman, I really understand now what a superpower it is to generally not care, like, what people think.
Jump in on that because I love you. I think we're similar. I'm sitting here at my mom's house. I'm visiting my mom. Carla knows my mom. My mom has never given a fuck, like, my whole life. And I want you to know, at one point in like my 20s, like, I hated her for stuff. I remember just being like, the fuck are you like this? Like, can you just be like the other moms? Like, you just do whatever the fuck you want, woman. And we're just like on this journey with you, right? And I'm like, just put a moo on and show up at a PE meet or PA meeting, whatever it is, a PTA meeting for a sec. And it was never going to happen. But I will say, being 42 now, sitting with my mom even last night, and I'm sure you get this, I am so grateful that this woman did not let me stop her, because all it did for me was create like the woman that I am. And I am just been living my truth and finding my peace, and I don't give a fuck. And she gave me permission to go into my life with like, this is my journey.
Yeah.
And I get to give that to my daughter.
Yep.
But there'll be moments where you're going to get challenged by your kids because it is so different than what most are doing. But in the end, what you're offering them, I'm telling you, even as a daughter as well, like you, to a dad, that my dad didn't give a fuck, my mom didn't give a fuck. There's some real beauty in being able to walk through your life knowing that like it's yours and you get to decide what it looks like for you.
Yeah, totally. I couldn't agree more. And I think the only like even minor like fissure I had was with my daughter, right? And that's I think what happens with
Yes.
moms and daughters.
Yes.
My daughter and I have always been like extremely close. Like we're different in some ways, but we're also very similar in some ways. And, you know, as a good friend of mine who's a retired school teacher said, he was like, she has to break up with you to find herself.
Fuck yes.
And that's, and this little episode that was sort of around, we just got in an argument about some others. Well, we really did get in an argument about this. And then she kind of chunked it at me and it really hurt my feelings. And I remember, and she ran out of the house and I remember like crumpling to the floor and just wailing because it was the moment when my baby broke from me.
Huh.
I didn't understand at that moment that's what it was. It just felt painful and hurtful.
Yeah.
But what it really was my incredible daughter in her freshman year. She was home from college her freshman year, breaking away from me. And it has to happen.
Yeah.
All moms and daughters have to go through it.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I've been through it and I found my way back. My mom and I had to break up for a while. It happens, you know, and
Yeah.
you're capturing that part. I just want to say, like, I'm so grateful we both are that you, again, were able to come here and shed some light and give some truth on a topic like this. And just thank you. This is like such an incredible, like, effort moment. What is the message that you would leave behind for your children to hear and anyone listening to hear?
You know, you do you. That's what I would say. I feel like that's when I'm talking about like even how my own perspective is like oriented. I would say that I've always been pretty driven by like what I wanted to do, but for sure for the first, 45, probably almost 50 years of my life, it was still held down by an overlay of patriarchy, culture, like all that stuff. Again, my closest friends would laugh and be like, what in the F are you talking about? Like you have always done what you wanted to do. But I think now in my 50s, that's just on turbo. Like I absolutely, Carla knows this. I just spent the last week driving a 1977 Dodge Robin Hood RV from the Bay Area to Los Angeles. I thought I was going to do it in a day. It took me 5. It's a whole other story and it's a whole other podcast. But, and so many people are like, what? You did what? You're by yourself? Like what? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, it just didn't occur to me. Why wouldn't you do that? I mean, that's what I wanted to do. So that's what I did.
I feel like the 40s, Carla and I had like our big fuck it moment in our 40s. We were like, fuck this. What are we doing? What do we want to do with our lives? We're moms now. Like, I don't know. You get this rebirth, you know?
Yeah.
And hearing you in your 50s and some of the women we've had in their 50s, Carla, I'm like, fuck, our 50s we're going to be even more fuck it. I feel like the fuck it level goes up as you get older.
There's no question. It absolutely does.
It does. And I think there's something about hitting 40, which is like, from 40 on, it's the midway point of your life or basically. And I think that's when you realize all the bullshit that's been fed and ingrained in you is literally bullshit. And
yes, literally bullshit.
Literally bullshit, and you can't fucking do it anymore. And that's when you hear these, a lot of the moms, most of the moms are like either 40 and over, or have had these like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Like It's time for me to live my fucking life. So exactly. I think it is. We get to a point where we're like, this was all bullshit. This was put into us as little kids, and we some of us went along more so than others, but at some point we're breaking free.
Carla, we're going to go wild in our 50s. I can't fucking wait.
I think our lives are just starting right now.
I'm telling you, I am just 1 year. Okay. I am just now 1 year into being, I don't call myself an empty nester. I'm a bird launcher. Okay. My birdies are launched. Empty nest doesn't sound right. I was a bird launcher. Now I'm in this phase of life. I feel like I'm 27 again. Right. Yes. Because except I got money, And I mean, and that's the thing that nobody tells you about your 50. I mean, people are like, oh, what about, are you dating anybody? I'm like, fuck no. Why would I date somebody? Talk about a pain in the ass. Yeah. No, it's amazing. 50s. Yeah. It is just a whole new chapter and just having a blast with it.
Yeah.
I love it. I just want to thank you so much for wrapping up. Thank you for your words, your story.
Yeah, and thank you for being open with me the first time I met you, and you shared all this stuff with me because I cut her hair. That's how we met. And I was like, oh my God, this is such an incredible story.
We got to talk to her. I hope
Yeah, I immediately was like, Romy, I just cut this woman's hair. She's a badass. We have to have her on.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing, because you're right. You're so right. To me, it is a lot like recovery in that. I mean, the recovery principles are you go sit in a room and you listen to people and you listen to their stories, and slowly but surely you start to see yourself and their stories, and you can heal that way.
That's
And I love it. That's what I know. That's what you're doing. And so I honesty and just being straightforward about things. And if anybody can hear this and go, oh, wait, that's an option for me. Like, yeah, it's an option for you. It's all an option for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if everybody gives you shit, it's just projection.
100%.
Yeah.
Their own
it's just
shit. They're just scared of shit, and you trigger something in them. I tell my daughter all the time, and we'll end on this. When somebody teases her at school, I go, baby girl, that's not about you. That's about them. If I can teach anything in this life, whatever is causing them to feel those anger and that pain and that judgment on you, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
100%. When, I get it. I could see how younger moms might be like, how would something like that affect your kids? And trust me, I mean, I've worked their whole lives. I've done kind of crazy shit like this their whole lives. But now at 20 and 21, my daughter, like I said, UCLA music school. My son is a sprinter at Cal Poly. I have really, really strong relationships with both of them. Just coming home this week, once I got back, I sent them a little quick story of everything that had happened. And my daughter was like, OMG, but thank goodness she's finally home. And then my son was like, baller, good stuff, right? Like, and if you can get that from your, young adult kids, it feels like a win to me. I feel like, okay, I think I did a lot right. Maybe not everything, but I did a lot right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere, do you want people to follow you? Is there anything that you want to promote to like?
I mean, I would say I would promote my daughter's music, first of all, because she is just incredible. Berta Bunch, she's on all the platforms. Listen to her song Fallen. It's amazing. If you want to follow me, you can. I'm on Instagram at Tara_Trask. I'm also on TikTok. I am on TikTok. I just got on TikTok. I'm a pretty political person, and I've felt the need to start yammering away on TikTok, so you can find me there too. But yeah, thanks.
Perfect. We end it with just F it. So you can kick us off by saying that, and then we'll just
F it.
Just F it.
Just F it.